And welcome, Hoosier fans, to another episode of Doing the Work, the first show on the Back Home Network covering IU women's basketball. This is our 86th episode recorded on Sunday, November 26th. I am your host, Kathy Amos, and I'm joined today by my ever trusty co-host, Jeff Marlow. And tonight we are going to break down our number 21 or number 19 Indiana Hoosiers win from yesterday, 72-63 win over Princeton in Fort Myers. That brings the record now to 5-1. But first, we will start our show as we start every show, and that's with our Hoosier Proud banner moment. And Jeff, for me, I don't have the exact time written down in the game, but for me, I think I'm going back to yesterday when Mackenzie made her probably would have been her 16th point, somewhere around there, when she scored her 16 point to make her the second woman in Indiana history to go over 2,000 points in her career. So that is a really huge accomplishment for her. She is now only 360 points behind Tyra Buss to take over first place. She is right on average to be able to catch her. So at the beginning of the year, not counting postseason, Mackenzie needed to average 17.3 points per game. She's currently averaging 17.8 points per game. So she's right on pace to be able to catch Tyra if she continues on this way. So a huge accomplishment for Mackenzie, closing in on that 2,000 point mark in her career and surpassing it yesterday. To me, that just, again, shows how much, and Coach Rhett highlighted this on his Twitter account when she broke that record yesterday, how she's really grown as a player in the 5 years. And that 2,000 point is just another way to measure that. So for me, that was our Hoosier Proud banner moment from yesterday. And as always, our banner moment is brought to you by Home Field Apparel. They're our presenting sponsor of the entire Back Home Network. That includes not only Doing the Work, but the Assembly Call and Crimson Cast as well. Home Field is constantly releasing new schools or updating the products in current schools for their existing line. So you're bound to find something for you or anyone in your life that loves great collegiate gear. Right now, they have retro-inspired snapback hats available. And not only do you get quality apparel, but you're supporting an Indiana-based business that has its roots in the Kelley School of Business. So go to homefieldapparel.com, and if it's your first time there, you can use our promo code HOME23 to get 15% off your first order. But if you hurry, I'm thinking they might actually have a Black Friday special still going on. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's still going on, and they do. Okay, so you can get 20% off using their current code Black Friday. So once again, that website is homefieldapparel.com. Wear one for the team. All right. So I think our big headline again was Mackenzie Holmes surpassing that 2,000 point mark. Her total now is at 2,004. So just to give that total one more time. But Jeff, let me kick it over to you for your Marlow's musings. What's on your mind tonight?
Kathy, I kind of was going to go along with that, but there was also, I thought yesterday there was a couple, another part of that, kind of the banner moment. I just thought that, the game that Sarah Scalia had yesterday was just overall, I mean, you don't want to point to the overall game, but at one point, I think she was 4 for 4 on threes in the first half. Yep. And I think that just kind of we're going to talk a little bit more about Sarah, I think, as we get deeper in the episode, but what a great accomplishment for Mac. I mean, 2,000 points. Like you said, she's only the second Hoosier to get to that mark, second, IU women's player to get to that mark. So I want to make sure somebody's like, well, there's men who've gotten over 2,000. Yeah. Okay. So second, female, second woman's player to get to that. And with that, so I will go with that. I thought that was a good one as well. So, but I just really thought, Kathy, and you were at the game yesterday, you were talking about when we were texting back and forth, physical game. But Princeton was a solid team, and this team got off to a really good start. And I thought that was a big key on Thursday, but also yesterday. And I think it really was something, I got a feeling that was something that Coach Moore talked about in those few days between the game against Lipscomb and Tennessee, that one of the things they didn't do well out in Stanford was they got off to such a terribly slow start. And I thought that was probably an emphasis against those two teams in Tennessee and Princeton, knowing how good they were going to be. And I thought Coach Morin made a really good comment in her post game that I saw online, that I didn't watch the post game online, but the recap of it, where she said that, that Princeton's a good team, and she, and don't just assume that just because they're in the Ivy that, a Power 5 team is just going to walk over them. No, it is that is a solid team. For those fans who don't remember or weren't along with us a couple years ago, this was a Princeton team that took IU in the second round in Assembly Hall to basically the buzzer. So it is, that is a well-run team with some talent.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and not only is Princeton, 2 years ago took us down to that last minute mark, but to your point, Coach Morin in her comments, she fully thinks that Princeton's, if they're not going to be this week, will be ranked at some point in the season. They did just knock off Oklahoma, who's a ranked team, and they took UCLA down to the wire just about not quite a week prior to that, and only lost to UCLA, a very highly ranked top 10 team, by only 3 points. So, so don't discount Princeton at all. I think, especially being able to watch them in person, and it was a small arena, so you got really up close and personal feel being really close to the court. You could really tell how well coached they are, how cohesive they are as a team. And I think they're going to make a lot of noise in the Ivy League this year for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, we were talking real quick. I mean, just to give you an example, we were kind of talking in the first half how much we'd done, how well we'd played against Caitlin Chin. I think she had 4 points maybe in the first half. Yeah. And then the second half, she really found her game. And let's, remember, for fans who weren't able to watch it yesterday, and I will say the live stream was actually a pretty good feed. There was no announcers. For those of you who didn't get a chance to see it, no announcers. All you got really was the PA in the background. And by the way, shout out to whoever down there had the idea to have Chuck Crabb come in and do the starting lineup for Indiana yesterday, because Chuck is a longtime voice of the Hoosiers PA, has moved down to the Fort Myers area. But anyway, they had it down to 5, I believe it got in the fourth quarter, at one point there. So it was not, even though it looked like a 13-point win, it was a game where Princeton made their run and Indiana had to fight it off.
Yeah, they made some people nervous. So maybe that's a good segue to talk about some of those pivotal plays that we saw throughout the game. So Jeff, why don't you get us started? What is one of the pivotal plays that you saw from the game yesterday?
I'm going to kind of just lump it all together. I thought much better in the fourth. And again, Sarah played well, don't get me wrong, but I thought the difference, or I should say difference, but I thought one of the big things was we really pounded it into Mac in the second half, and especially the fourth quarter. And I thought that was a big difference, because I thought especially in the second half, I thought Princeton got locked in a little better defensively. I thought first half they had some spots where they didn't get locked in. They left people open, primarily Sarah. And so we were able to, get some things in, from that. But in the second half, I thought we did a really good job of pounding the ball into Mac. And to me, that was a really pivotal part of the game, was to make us to play inside out.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And you could see again, that became a point of emphasis. So I think we saw that, at least I felt we really saw that in the Stanford game in the fourth quarter. I thought we saw that again here in the second quarter, but having Sarah knocking down all those threes, it made it harder for them to be able to double down on Mackenzie as much. But I think really not only were we making a better effort getting it to her, I think a good point of emphasis was for Mackenzie. And we heard actually Coach Morin a couple of times yell at Mackenzie in the first half, you have to be quicker with that. It's because she was getting the ball and she was not being real decisive, and the double team was coming. And by then it kind of locked her up. But, Coach Morin must have talked to her at halftime, and she came out, and I thought Mackenzie made some really nice adjustments as well, because she was quicker. She was either moving to the basket right away or turning around and looking to kick it back out, and Sarah made that a little more possible by kicking out her threes, or hitting all of her threes. So for me, on the other side of the ball, in terms of pivotal plays, I think when Princeton really locked down on that full court press for us, I think that gave us a lot of trouble. And I know a lot of people will probably say, well, we never really turned it over. We always got it across. We didn't have any 10-second violations, but there were a lot of close calls. And I not knowing what it felt like on this live stream, in the in the stadium, there was a lot of nervous Indiana fans. Like we were really sweating it out. Princeton, like you said, got it back within 6. And we were getting really nervous in that arena. We could really tell that it seemed they were struggling at times to know where to throw the ball to break that press, who to get it to, making crisp passes. And they're even though we may not have turned it over, there were some really close ones that really could have gone the other way. And so for me, a big pivotal play, and it's something to keep an eye on, especially when we get to the Ohio State game, is when Princeton started pressing us, and then they really locked down and took us. Not only did they slow us down getting the ball across the half court line, I thought it really took us out of our half court set once we got it across too. And you saw a number of times that the shot clock then was getting out of 5-6 seconds, and we really had to get a shot off really quick. And it took us out of I think our whole offensive game for around a quarter or so, until they started figuring it out late in that fourth quarter.
Yeah, I'm going to go along with that too. And I thought the big thing, excuse me. Anyway, I thought the big thing on that was at least from my perspective, I was a little surprised that once we always taught, excuse me.
Bless you.
Excuse me. Sorry, everybody. But anyway, we always wanted our teams to attack that. Even though it was a little more half court, maybe 2/3 court, it wasn't full court pressure. And so they were really kind of just more than anything waiting for us to make a mistake, which we didn't. And I agree with you, Kathy. I thought that we just got stagnant in the half court after that. Even when we broke it and we just kind of waited for them to fall back into their zone, we got really stagnant against it. And we didn't move. We didn't get them, maybe one ball screen got set or something like that. We just didn't get any dribble drive. We didn't get any screens being set to get anything open. And I thought there was a lot of standing. But I was getting ready to say before I had my sneeze, we always wanted our teams to attack. And I got that from Coach Knight. We break the press, attack it, whether it's up the side or up into the middle. But once you break that first line and you can get it 3-on-2, 3-on-1, we always wanted our teams to attack it. And I thought that was something we didn't do yesterday against that press, was once we got it to the sideline or the middle, we just kind of were willing for them to back up into their zone. Whereas I would have liked to see us attack it and maybe get a little bit, like we did against Murray. And again, Murray and Princeton are not the same teams, different level of talent, but that's what we did against Murray when they were trying to press us or trap us in the half court. We really attacked it. And I didn't think yesterday we attacked it as much, but kudos to them.
Absolutely agree. What other pivotal plays for you sticks out, Jeff?
I'm going to forget who it was, Kathy, so you may be able to help me. But there was a point there in the fourth, I think it was in the fourth quarter, maybe it was late third quarter. I was getting a little nervous about the score, and I'm pretty sure it was Chloe got a big steal, kind of a tip out steal, and was able to get a layup off of it. And kind of like, and again, it's only 2 points, but it was one of those kind of steals like, okay, that I feel a little better now, at least for the next couple of possessions, because I just kind of felt like we were back on our heels a little bit. So, and again, I think it was Chloe. I can't remember exactly whether it was third quarter, fourth quarter.
Yeah. I remember that play, and it was Chloe. Yes, that was going to be actually one that I brought up too. So it definitely, I think, stuck out for us. So I think another pivotal play for me is, again, just Mackenzie at the beginning of the game. She wasn't really looking too much to turn and try to drive it as much, but what she really was doing was looking for her teammates. So, she ended up with 4 assists, which I thought was actually really a good number for her to have in that game, where she was really looking for her teammates. And, I think we'll talk a lot more in numbers here later, but in overall, we had, 20 assists as a team. So all around, I just thought that was indicative of the whole game. Again, they were really, sharing the sugar, as Coach Morin likes to put it. So, but yeah, I think in all the physicality of that game, like you had mentioned, was just, it was the whole weekend, to be honest. It was the same way in the Tennessee game. And I think Coach Moore mentioned that in her comments later, is just different officials. You don't know how it's going to play, get called. And it was really physical on both ends.
I thought that was an interesting comment, Kathy, from a college coach. Because there's got some things I used to hear high school coaches talk about. Like, wait, we want to go play. Like, we're from Northwest Indiana, so we were used to some of the officials we saw up here. Would like to maybe get some officials from Central Indiana because you didn't know who you were going to see in the tournament because the IHSA assigned them.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really interesting comment from a college coach to make that, to say that, because you just get so used to, when you're playing in the Big Ten or where you're watching Big Ten teams or SEC teams, you tend to see a lot of the same officials. And I don't know some of the women's game officials by names. Like, you'll watch a men's game and you'll see a couple some of those individuals. You'll be like, oh yeah, there he is. Like Gene Steratore was a great example.
Yes.
Gene Steratore, Gene's on the
Ted
game.
Valentine.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so I don't know him like that, but you'll see them be like, yeah, they've had our game before. So I really thought that was an interesting comment that a college coach also thinks that way.
Yeah, I did too. And it actually makes a lot of sense, because they don't all call it the same way. And this one was way more physical, I think, than what we have seen so far this year. And I thought the Tennessee game was as well. Any other pivotal plays, Jeff, that come to mind for you that you want to talk about with the game, or just any general themes that we haven't touched on?
I thought one thing here as well, the physical play, like you said, but then it would be frustrating because, again, I was watching on the live stream with no announcer, but it just seemed like there'd be some touch fouls or there'd be almost a phantom foul. And
Yes.
sometimes it seemed like those fouls were going on IU more than they were Princeton. I'm not trying to be a total homer here, but it just seemed like you get some of that. And unfortunately, it seems like Sydney's the one who always seems to be in the wrong place. And, Sydney and Sydney ended up with 4 fouls.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was, 4 fouls. And she ended up with 7 points and she had 3 rebounds, 2 assists. But I just felt like Sydney never got into a rhythm because I thought she was spending a ton of time. She had 2 fouls in the first half. And I made a comment, I think it was on the Discord, with the fans following yesterday, that I was a little surprised Coach Morton actually brought her back.
Yep,
in the second quarter with 2 fouls. So, but it just seems like right now, Sydney always seems to be the one that gets those kind of fouls. And we really can't afford Sydney to be the person on the bench. Like I said, yesterday, she only got 24 minutes. And most of that was because of the foul trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. And, definitely in that second half, they were swapping her in and out, taking her out on defense and putting her back in on offense. But interesting, during one of the timeouts, I think it was after her 4th foul, she went over and talked to one of the officials. And we could actually hear the official tell her, you're moving too late. You're about a half a step too late. You're sliding over and you're still moving when the offensive player is coming. And so I think that's something hopefully Sydney will take back with her to kind of work on, is her lateral movement has to just be a little more crisp. And I think that's what seems to be leading to her foul. So it's something I think we can keep an eye on going forward, especially, now that we heard an official tell her, like, this is why you got called on that foul. You slid over too late. I think that's something we'll have to keep an eye on. So I agree, though. You had such rough play underneath the basket, but then you'd have, I think like at one point, Chloe Moore McNeil got called for some, reach in foul that, how that was a foul and all the other underneath the basket wasn't. That's what it gets difficult, I think, for me with the officiating when it's not consistent. You have under the basket is one thing, and then out on the perimeter, you get different calls. And yes, it was a little lopsided in the first quarter for sure. I think at one point it was like 6 Indiana fouls to only 2 on Princeton. And it was just as physical on either end of the floor. So it was a little lopsided in the first half, but I think it got better in the second half. So I think that Sydney was something we talked about in our preview show, was her fouling. And it's unfortunately still an issue, I think, for her, and things we'll have to keep watching as we go forward.
I agree.
Cool. All right. Well, let's move on to another segment. We're adding kind of back in to what we used to do, and it's now notable numbers. So we'll talk about some of the statistics really around the team angle. So Jeff, why don't you start us off with a team statistic that you want to talk about?
Well, I'll go right to what you talked about. Coach Morin refers to it as sharing the sugar. And yesterday, again, 20 assists on 28 made baskets. And so you're getting basically 3 out of every 4 baskets are being assisted. And to me, that just is an outstanding number. And not that this is a team that's ever really been a great one-on-one team, or Coach Moore's necessarily looking for one-on-one play, but just the fact that when you make a play and make a pass, and to get that assist, you either got to be setting somebody up really close to the basket, or they've got to finish well around the basket, which is where Matt comes in, or sometimes you're just getting a little bit of luck. I mean, somebody puts up a shot that goes in, maybe they get fouled on it, or maybe they put up a shot at the shot clock and the shot clock's run down, but you made the pass to them and it goes in. I mean, but still 20 assists on 28 made baskets. That stat. And again, this is something we routinely see from this team in this program, but it just is, to me, I really wanted to start on that tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're definitely sharing the ball, moving the ball around. You could really see that, I think, just really nice, crisp plays and for the most part. So what also helped with that is a number I wanted to talk about, which was 3-point shooting. We shot 9 of 18. So 50% from 3-point, and Sarah Scalia by herself was 5 of 9. So over 50% from Sarah on 3-point shooting. And that is just huge. And I know we were a little concerned after the Stanford game with how cold they were, but I think we're seeing, hopefully that was the anomaly for us this season, because their 3-point shooting, and it wasn't just Sarah. We had, 4 different people make 3-pointers in the game. And so really just outstanding shooting. That also helps with the assist number. When Matt can throw it out to Sarah and you feel confident that Sarah at least half the time is going to make that 3-point shot. And that really just keeps things open for Mackenzie. I remember Lisa Bluter, I think the Iowa coach last year, talked about, in a preview of the first matchup between Iowa and Indiana, talked about how hard it is to guard Indiana now, because Mackenzie has things opened up for her, because we've had shooters that, we've gotten in last year between Sarah, even Chloe and Sydney in particular, and Yarden. It really opens things up for Mackenzie and keeps that middle open for her. So that was another stat that on the positive side, I thought we definitely needed to talk about tonight.
Yeah. Now I'm going to go to the negative. And I'm not trying to be, Johnny Downer.
Always something to work on.
But you look at three things here: second chance points, fast break points, bench points. We got, not just did we get outscored, we got shut out. Second chance points were 8-0. Fast break points were 15-0. Bench points were 13-0. All in favor of Princeton. And we still won by 13. If you would have told me before the game that was going to happen and we'd win by 13, I would have been like, let me go to the casino with you, because you got some some magic there. But yeah. And I want to point this out too, kind of the same thing about those bench points. The bench, for the first time yesterday, I felt like the bench was very unproductive. Yeah. Combined, the 4 players off the bench, I think I had it as 2 rebounds, 2 assists, and I believe a steal in that. That was all.
Yeah,
they didn't give us any points. Yeah, didn't give us any points. Didn't give us really anything at all. Lexi played 19 minutes, but other than it just they were not productive minutes from the bench yesterday.
No, absolutely. And we were texting about that afterwards. It's unfortunate in a game like this too, because, it just seemed, I thought Lene in particular, it just seemed a little fast for her all weekend. She didn't play a whole lot in that Tennessee game either, but she definitely, this is the first time I felt like Lene, it was too fast for her. And she's gotten, she's definitely had some freshman vibes for me this weekend. And then you had Juliana LaMandola, who came in with 6 minutes. She had 1 really fantastic rebound, and otherwise she just came in and kind of gave some rest to Sydney, and because of her foul trouble, as well as to Mackenzie as well. But our bench just really didn't do a whole lot for us in terms of offensive production. I do have to say, Lexi, though, I thought her defense was really pretty good. I thought, that's why she got those 20 minutes off the bench. She came in, and I thought on the defensive end, she was there. She needs to catch up on the offensive end, and we need to be able to get some more from her. I feel like a little more consistently. And I think it's there. And I know that she's been working on it. It's just not quite there yet. But defensively, I thought Lexi looked really good.
Yeah, it's hard to tell on the video, but I thought, again, I thought she was giving some solid stuff there. Obviously, Coach Morin thought so. She played her 19 minutes, but this was another one of those games where, we kind of, and again, they were needed, but, you had 4 players who played 30 plus minutes. 3 of them played 35 plus.
Yeah. Sarah put in 38 minutes for us, so almost played the whole game. So, One other one is the number that I thought we should talk about is rebounding. That was a point of emphasis from the coach coming into the weekend, and I believe they out rebounded Tennessee, if my memory is correct.
Yes.
But they got out rebounded here by Princeton, 34-30, which leads into one of your numbers that you were talking about with the second chance points. We just didn't have any. We didn't have enough. We had 4 offensive rebounds. And again, when you're shooting, 50% from 3-point, and 52% from the field, it's okay, but we're not going to have nights where we're putting up those kind of shooting numbers all the time. And so we've got to figure out a way, I think, to just be more aggressive on the boards. But what are your thoughts on rebounding?
Well, the flip side of that is Princeton had 11 of their 34 rebounds were on the offensive end. That, again, I realize they missed more shots, but you can't be giving up 11 offensive rebounds. That's still one of those, as Sean pointed out in the Workaholics, the team rebounding is still a work in progress. But I think it also goes back to, just because you have an All-American center, you can't expect her to do all your rebounding. The guards especially have to dig down and get some boards. Yeah. And they did a little bit yesterday. Yarden, Sarah had 7 rebounds, which, she was second on the team.
Yeah.
But Chloe had 3. And then, like you said, Lene had 1 and Jules had 1. But I just,
I think Sydney being in foul trouble really hurt us on the boards too, because she tends to be a big rebounder for us. And then when you only can play her 24 minutes, I think that probably hurt us quite a bit too.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Any other team stat that you want to talk about?
Now, Kathy, I just want to get your thoughts about the second quarter real quick, because again, kind of a 25-13 second quarter where we had a pretty good first quarter, but only ended up 5. Just maybe give us your thoughts, since you were there live watching the game. That second quarter, what kind of stood out to you from that quarter on that 25-13 segment?
Yeah. Gosh, I don't know that anything in particular stood out to me, other than the fact that I just think that they really moved the ball really, really well. And the first half in total, but definitely in the second quarter, and just our shooting was just crazy. We were 10-12 from the field in that second quarter. It's 83%. When you're shooting like that, I guess maybe we shouldn't get so picky about rebounds. But again, we're not going to have nights all the time where we're going to be shooting that well. But to me, I think we just had really good ball movement and really good shot selection on the offensive end that allowed us to go up there. And again, defense, like, what did you say? We held them to 13 points in that quarter. Is that what you said? Yeah. 13 points. So I think it was just a good combination. When you're firing up that kind of shots and making them 25 points and then holding them to only 13, especially their 2 best players, right? We were really expecting Chen and State Rose to put up some numbers, and they did eventually get to double digits. But that first half, we really held both of them, I think, to 3 and 4 points respectively. So a lot of that, to me, I think, was Chloe's defense on Caitlin Chen in particular.
Hey, a shout out though to the Mitchell girl for Princeton. She put up a double yesterday. I did not realize how many rebounds she had. I just now started looking at the stat sheet. 11 points. It wasn't a huge number of points for her. She had 16 rebounds, and I thought she was giving us some trouble, especially in the second half. But I did not realize the numbers she was putting up. She had 3 blocks and 3 steals as well. So she was not somebody we talked about in the preview. We had talked about Belker and Chen and St. Rose.
Yeah, she was very aggressive. And I think we had some trouble with her physicality in particular. And that's, again, a theme we've kind of talked about is athleticism and some physicality. And I think that's where Ellie Mitchell really turned it on in that second half. She was a lot more physical coming out of halftime with us. And that led to 16 rebounds for her. Yeah, definitely had some trouble with her. Any other notable numbers on your mind?
No, those were the ones I really wanted to hit as well.
Yeah, 14 turnovers, by the way, but yes.
Yeah, which doesn't seem bad when you're forcing 13, but I just thought some of our turnovers were sloppy.
Yeah, I agreed. So, well, good. Well, with that, maybe it's time we'll jump into game ball, where we'll start talking about probably some more individual stats. So, Jeff, why don't you go first? Who do you have on your mind for game ball tonight?
I'm going to go with Sarah. I mean, Sarah put up, again, we kind of were texting about this. I said this in the text yesterday that with you and Ari, that this was that was the game that I think a lot of us thought we were going to see from Sarah the moment she arrived on campus. That was the kind of game she had at Minnesota. It was the kind of game she had against IU in Assembly Hall when she was playing at Minnesota, But, you look at her numbers. She shot about 50%. She was 3 of 3 at the line. She was 10 for 17 overall, 5 of 9 from 3, as you said earlier, 28 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals in 38 minutes. I'm going with Sarah on my game ball today.
Yeah, that was an easy one for me too. And I guess I should have said at the beginning too. So Garzon has had 2 now. Sydney Parrish 1, Mackenzie Holmes 1, and now Sarah. This takes her to 2 game balls. So, it's hard when you're talking about Mackenzie and, she puts up a 20-point game and almost another double-double with her, and she got to 2,000 points. So, definitely an honorable mention for her, I think, for game ball. But, 28 points, 5 of 9 from 3-point shooting, made all of her free throws again. I think she's only missed 1 free throw, Jeff, all year. She's automatic when she goes up to the line. So, just a reliable, and, not just from 3-point, what I really have started enjoying a lot with Sarah is, how she's driving the ball too. Like she's really aggressive going to the basket as well at times. So I think her game is just, way improved from last year from what we were seeing from her. I think she's a lot more comfortable in the system. She's got her confidence back. She's knocking her shots down. I've loved what I've seen from Sarah almost all year, but what we saw yesterday was bang on.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, with that, let's move on to the Grace Berger hardest worker. So before we jump into, all the numbers, let's talk a recap of who we've had so far this year. So Lexi Bargesser has had 2, Lene Beaumont has had 1, Lily Meister 1, and Mackenzie Holmes 1. So Jeff, who do you have for your Grace Berger hardest worker award tonight?
Well, I even though sometimes you try not to think of a starter in this one or somebody who scored 20 points for the hardest worker, but I'm going to go with Mackenzie here. 20 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 blocks in 36 minutes. And as we mentioned already, she goes above 2,000 points, but I really thought she took, it was a battle in there. And I thought that she was working her tail off, and I thought she did a very good job. She left a few, she missed some shots. We're so used to her hitting, but I thought she did a nice job of playing a pretty physical game without getting in foul trouble. And that's, in a game like that, would have been a huge big break for them if Mac had. So I'm going to go with Mackenzie Holmes here for my hardest worker of the game.
Yeah. So the other person, I'm going to go with Mackenzie as well for a lot of the same reasons that you talked about. In addition to why I am voting for Mackenzie is just, again, how hard I can see her now in person working down low has just given me just a completely different perspective on watching how she's working when she doesn't have the ball. But the fact that she made really great adjustments after Coach Moore and pointed them out to her. You need to be faster, Mackenzie, when you're, before the double team comes, move, and her footwork in that second half in particular, I thought just really came alive. But I do want to give a huge shout out to Chloe Moore McNeil. So Chloe, I think defensively was the biggest reason why Chen had so few points in that first half. So I think defensively, if we were talking about only defensive hardest worker of the game and not just the full game, I would hands down give it to Chloe. She was really spot on with her defense today, but it's kind of hard with Chloe with the 4 turnovers, and she only had 9 points. I would just like to see her when the game is maybe not quite where, we can't always, again, rely on Sarah and Mackenzie. I would like to see Chloe be a little more aggressive on the offensive end. So
agree.
Yeah. So for me, she gets honorable mention, but I think, let's give our hardest worker to Mackenzie again. So that gives her second hardest worker for the year. So Jeff, that gets us through everything for this game, but are there any other last minute thoughts about or takeaways from the Princeton game that you want to talk about before we get into what's coming up next?
I just think this weekend was a heck of a weekend for the women. I thought that they played 2 really good teams and came away with 2 really good wins that should look fairly decent, if not even really good, on the resume for the tournament come February, March. I think that it really kind of takes that sour taste out of the mouth that we had out from Stanford. And now you look at, and I would think after those 2 wins, you'll see IU bump back up in the polls a little bit here with that. But yeah, I just think a really good bounce. I hate to say bounce back for a team that's still in the top 25, but I really felt like it was just, and even Coach Morin said this, Kathy, that she feels like their toughness level is trending now in the right direction.
Right.
And I think that's a huge part of what they got out of this weekend.
Absolutely. I think the thing we've been kind of questioning all this year so far has been their defense, which is kind of along that same thing. You want to play great defense, you have to have great toughness. And I saw it ratcheted up this weekend, for sure, both games. And yeah, it also helps us. And, I do agree with Coach Moore, and I think Princeton's going to be ranked, if not this week. I think they're definitely ranked at some point in the year. Tennessee is ranked already, and they knocked off Oklahoma yesterday, another ranked team. So just really two great resume wins as well. Not to mention, it's just great for our confidence. We went down and we took care of business. Again, like I think the big lingering question, if we're going to talk about lingering question, is our bench play again.
Yep.
It's back to that again. And somehow we have to figure that out. And the one thing we didn't really talk about as well that is still a concern is how do we stop the dribble penetration? Because to be honest, it wasn't just the press. We talked about the press, but the way Princeton really got back into that game was not by shooting a bunch of threes. It was by Chen or one of their other perimeter players just driving the ball on us. And we knew it. Every time they gave her the ball, she was going to drive. And it was just getting right past a lot of our perimeter defense. And so we've got to figure that out sometime. So any other thoughts on this game or the weekend in general?
Nope. I think I've got mine between the Tennessee post-game show and this one.
All right. Sounds good. Well, let's move on to what's next in terms of upcoming games. Our women will be playing Maine on Wednesday, November 30th. That game will be tipping at 7 Eastern, 6 Central, and will be on ESPN Plus. This is going to be a homecoming game for Mackenzie. And in terms of history, IU is 2-0 all times versus the Black Bears. The last time they played was in 2004, which was an Indiana victory, 67-59. Currently, Maine is 4-3 for the season. They just were out here, actually in my neck of the woods in Des Moines, at Drake, playing a tournament over the holiday. In that tournament, they lost to Richmond and then defeated Louisiana Tech. And then today they lost to Drake 56-72 to finish that tournament out. So, Jeff, do you want to talk about the coaching and any of the players?
Yeah, I'll take it through on the kind of the scouting report. Head coach Amy Vachon, her 6th season full-time. She actually spent the season before the prior season to when she as an interim. She was named the interim coach, and she actually finished out the year before that. So I'm not quite sure how they do that and with their record keeping, but they list this as her 6th full season. And she's 132-70 overall. She's a former player for the Black Bears. So she was somebody who, had played at Maine, came back now to coach and is the head coach. Their one thing is they've struggled to score at times. They're only averaging about 57 points a game. Their 2 best players, Adriana Smith is a 6-foot junior forward. She was the America East Player of the Year last year, where she averaged 20 points a game as a sophomore, 9.8 rebounds, 3.3 assists, shot 49%. Her freshman year, she was much more of a role player, only averaged about 7 minutes a game. But so far this year, scoring is down. She's only around 11.3, but she's averaging 11 rebounds and 3.5 assists. So her other numbers are right where they were last year. The other one, and this is the one that intrigues me a little bit, is Ann Simon, 5'9", graduate, senior plus guard, whatever you want to call her. She's kind of in her last year of eligibility. 2 years ago, she was the America East Player of the Year and the Defensive Player of the Year, but she missed about half of last season. And not sure why. I was trying to do a little digging. Couldn't find much more than she was out on an injury. But career-wise, she's a 14-point a game scorer, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals. And so far, before today's game, she was averaging 16 points a game, 6.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists, 2 steals. So those are the 2 you're really going to keep an eye on. They're the 2 that probably are going to get most of the sets and stuff run for them. But again, I don't take them lightly. This is a team that has been in the America East Tournament Championship game, I think, the last 5 years in a row. And since Coach Vachon's been there, they've made at least 2 NCAA tournament appearances. So this again, they're not in Power 5, and they're probably not even considered a mid-level Division I, but don't overlook them at home. And they're going to be a lot of Mackenzie, a lot of family and friends for Mackenzie, feel somewhat maybe like a home game for IU at points. There's going to be a lot of red, but you also know Maine's looking at this as an opportunity to knock off a top 20 team.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I don't think, they're going to come in and be afraid of us at all on close to their home court. Is it on Maine campus or is it in Portland?
It's actually in Portland. The game's going to be in Portland,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So it's about 2 hours, I think, from
I
where
don't know that part.
the
I know that
campus is?
Mackenzie grew up around the Portland area, I think. So I think
Yeah.
that's why they're playing down there.
I think so too. So yeah, I know we talked to Lenny Holmes earlier this year in the off season. He had mentioned they were already looking at trying to bus people in
Yeah.
for that game. So, oh, by the way, honorable mention to the crowd, the Indiana crowd down in Fort Myers. It was good. It was a really great showing, and I kind of expect to see a lot of the same thing here up in Maine with all of Mackenzie's supporters and followers from there coming in and supporting the whole team. So, I think there'll be a nice sea of red. So yeah, it was. I think that hopefully we'll be able to just go in and take care of business here. What I think is going to be intriguing, like you said, they don't put up a whole lot of points, and now they're going to be coming in against our defense. So I expect we should take care of business on this, but we'll be interested again to see how Ann Simon does with, being that the guard, and how I haven't seen her play. So I'm not sure if she's athletic. Is she going to drive on us again? Are we going to be able to stop her and things like that? So overall, I think this is a game we end up winning. But yes, I don't think, again, we should just kind of like Princeton, just because they're not in a Power 5 conference, don't just expect that you'll come in and walk all over them. You need to be ready to go.
Yep.
Cool. Anything else on that? Or nope. Sorry. Go ahead. Okay, so like we mentioned, that main game is on Wednesday, November 30th. Thursday. Okay. Thursday, November 30th. So Jeff and I will be on in a true post-game fashion this time. So right after the game is over, we will go live and give you guys a post-game wrap-up. So hopefully you'll be around to join us on that as well.
We may have to work that out with AC, with the Simply Call a little bit, but our plan is to be on right now with a post-game show live.
Yes, we may just have to be a little faster. So, we're hoping to do one live. If not, we'll figure it out.
Hope that game's going to end about the time they normally come on. So it's going to be, so maybe
we may have to negotiate with Jared.
Yeah, we're going to have to negotiate a little bit.
Yes. So, speaking of a Simply Call, they will be on Thursday night at some point too. So keep an eye out on their Twitter feed or on Substack or wherever you follow all of us for information there. So speaking of that, if you want to do see us do the show live, be part of our live chat, you could subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/@Back Home Network. That's a little different than it was a few weeks ago. It's not a Simply Call anymore. So search for @Back Home Network. You can also be part of our private community. You can go to assemblycall.substack.com and find out more if you want to join our private community. Special thanks to John Ringer of Riggs Design for designing all of our logos. Big thank you to Bob Thompson for the music that you heard us play throughout the broadcast. And most of all, thank all of you for being with us live or listening after the fact. We appreciate all of you. Got to meet a couple of you in Fort Myers. So if you ever have the opportunity to come and meet Jeff and I, absolutely would love the opportunity. We love meeting new people. So please reach out to us anytime. And then we'll be back to talk hoops with you again on Thursday, hopefully. So until then, keep your elbow in, your eyes on the rim, and let's go Hoosiers. All right. Well, good, Jeff. Thank you.
Good show. Thank you.
Cool. All right. Well, yeah, let's talk about Thursday and see if we can get a half an hour after the game from Jared before they go live with Assembly Call.Maybe they can delay a little bit for us.
Maybe they'd be better if they just went to Friday. I think the men play Friday night, so they might appreciate not having to do two in a row either. So
yeah.
So anyway, we'll get a hold of, let's text with Jared and stuff and see where we're at. Also, I was trying to create a watch page today for some of that stuff. So I'm trying to get him to share one with me so I can get into it and share with us actually. So, because I was trying to create some for the Substack today, but we're still figuring that out for some of you. We're trying to, make our way through Substack and get more content there and let you guys know stuff about doing the work.
Yep. All right, Jeff, I think I'm going to get out of here and go relax for a little bit before I hit the sack. So
don't blame you, Kathy. You've had a busy weekend. I'm glad you saw those two, though. It sounds like you saw a couple of good ones.
We did, yeah, and meeting a couple of people and a lot of Indiana fans, and I got to meet a lot of the family. And Sean's sister lives close there, so we had dinner with her and her fiance last night and stuff too. So it was just all around a good weekend. But it was a little weird, yesterday I was sitting on the beach in the afternoon, and then today I came home to about 3 inches of snow. So yay!
Yeah, it's been cold. The wind's picked up here too, so
Yeah,
bitter. So Kathy, enjoy the rest of
well,
your evening. I will talk to you Thursday.
sounds great, Jeff. Take care.
See ya.
Bye.